This gameplay video is brought to you by very generous patron Shuffles. Up against another Planeswalker commander, Lord Windgrace versus Aminatou the Fateshifter. And yeah, that's not particularly good. We need some ramp really, so we'll go down a card. Yeah, that's not incredible either, but we'll keep that one. Get rid of the Thespian Stage. No, we'll get rid of the Guy's Cradle. We don't have a lot of creatures. And then we just need to hope that our opponent doesn't get off to a really fast start on us. Well, can't get much slower than a tap land, so that's really good. We get into our third colour. So let's go for the Prismatic Omen. And just another tap land for them. They don't have any black mana yet, and that is an answer to their commander. That's really good. So we'll drop a forest and go for the Courser of Kruphix here. And we have Aminatou Excavator on top. We do not have a fetch yet, so that's not the best thing for us to draw into, but maybe we'll be able to go Aminatou next turn and play a fetch off the top. Still no black mana for them. And there is some black mana for us, so yeah, I think we just get that in tapped. Gain a life, and there is the new addition of Dread Presence to the deck. I'll go over the deck list at the end of the video. I had Prismatic Omen in the deck for Valakut, and thought, well, why not add the Dread Presence for Swamp Shenanigans as well? So, doing nothing else this turn, maybe we can get some removal or counter magic out of their hand. We'll go for the Aminatou, and they do decide to go for the counter spell. So I'm assuming they've got another one for the Lord Windgrace. And there is that black mana, just too late, doesn't come in untapped unfortunately for them. Reclamation Sage, we're likely to see artifacts and enchantments in an Esper deck I would think. Let's go for the Dread Presence here, because I think they do have counter magic for Windgrace. And they may well want to counter this instead, because we can deal 2 damage to any target, and that does include Planeswalkers. But they don't counter it, so we'll get this into play, already seeing the value of Dread Presence because we have Prismatic Omen in play. Every land that we make is every basic land type, so we'll lose a life and draw a card, gain a life, so we're exactly where we started with regards to our life total. Omnath, Locus of Rage on top. Not particularly bothered about, but maybe we'll be able to get another land on the top. Swing in with the Kruphix. And another black land coming in tapped, that is Castle Locthwain. Yeah, and it looks to me as though they want to play out their commander and then hold up a couple of mana for counter magic, which gives us time to find more lands, and there is one. So we can play that out. We'll draw into the E-Witness here, I think, to get the Aminatou back, and we can play that this turn. Okay, Reshape the Earth is nice as well, but yeah, we're nowhere near that. We'll have to get rid of that one, seeing all the new cards that I've added to the deck. Go for the Eternal Witness onto Aminatou, and this of course is just encouraging counter magic out of their hand. But they decide to allow us to get the Aminatou back, so maybe they just want to counter that again. We'll make landfall again to draw into another card, and now we have Vandal Blast on top. So, yeah, might as well draw into the Vandal Blast, not particularly bothered about it. But you never know, it might come in handy later on. Now an Oracle of Muldiah for additional land drops, might hit a pocket of lands on top, we do have a lot in the deck. And that will come in very handy with Aminatou and the fetch that's in the graveyard. They might just be holding out on a board wipe though. Okay, instead deciding to counter and bounce, so that's not drawing them a card at least. So no Aminatou Excavator for us. Let's continue to shock them with the Courser of Kruphix, and we will pass the turn at that. Vault of the Archangel, they are keeping up on land drops. They'll actually be able to hold up 3 mana now. It might be a 3 mana counter spell that they were hoping for. So it looks like Aminatou is coming out. They do have 2 blue mana held up. Ah, I see. And then Reality Acid going on to the Courser of Kruphix. Doesn't necessarily matter if we get into Oracle of Muldiah next turn. In fact, Oracle is better. So they exile. For anyone who doesn't know, you put the Reality Acid onto something, and then if you have Reality Acid leave play, which you can do with Aminatou, it will force you to sacrifice whatever's been animated, or enchanted even. So we are forced to sacrifice the Courser of Kruphix, and then Eternal Witness will go down as well, although Eternal Witness has done its job, so we're not really worried about that. Draw into the Oracle. I think it's probably a good idea to We could try our luck here, going Oracle for 4 mana, get a land off the top, and then go Rexage onto the Reality Acid so they can't keep flickering it. As of right now, we're just going to swing in at Aminatou before anything else. Yeah, so let's go for the Oracle. I might just go for Lord Windgrace next turn. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get some lands off the top, and there is a Dark Depths. Usually wouldn't tap for any mana, but it is every basic land type, so now we can go for that Rexage. Will force us to sacrifice the E-Witness, but like I said, we're not really bothered about that. And it's noteworthy that we do have Thespian Stage in place, so we can go for the Merit Lage token if we want to next turn, or at the end of our opponent's turn is probably a better idea. That is Elspeth Conquers Death, and they go after our Oracle of Muldiah. Yeah, we would have potentially had lethal on them there. If we hit them with Rexage and Oracle of Muldiah, then we would have been swinging in for 20 next turn with the Merit Lage token. Obviously we know what we're drawing into here in Splendid Reclamation. Let's swing in at our opponent first of all. And I do want to keep making lands, so we'll go for the Lord Windgrace now, before it costs 2 extra to the Elspeth Conquers Death. So we're not going to be making a Merit Lage token, unfortunately. I think I'll actually plus on the Lord Windgrace instead of getting a land, in the hope that we can either draw a land or get closer to one. Let's get rid of... we'll get rid of the Toxic Deluge. Okay, and there's a Cabal Coffers. Again, the Prismatic Omen doing a lot of work for us, so we might as well go for the Dread Presence here. And then with that floating mana we can remove a counter from the Dark Depths. Don't think that's going to matter, but you never know. Yeah, Prismatic Omen is the card of this game. It's done the most work for us by a long shot. Now it is Narset, Parter of Veils. We'll have to remember that we can't draw any extra cards with the Lord Windgrace. And they revealed from the minus down on the Narset, search for Azcanta. And playing that immediately. Still holding up 1 white mana, so it might be that they've got an answer for Merit Lage anyway. Okay, Lotus Cobra is nice. Let's get rid of Narset first of all. We'll swing the Dread Presence in to finish off Narset, and Rexage goes in at our opponent. That puts them down at 20, and the Merit Lage deals 20 to them, hopefully. They might have removal to protect the Narset, but it gets it out of their hand at least, so that they can't use it on our 2020 token. Yeah, so with that, why don't we minus down on the Lord Windgrace. That'll get us into a swamp, which will trigger the Dread Presence, and we might be able to make another land this turn, because we will draw a card to that. Okay, and there's Nissa Vital Force as well, so I think we're okay going like this. Make 9 black mana, and drop ourselves a Nissa Vital Force. So now our opponent's got a hell of a lot of permanents that they need to worry about. We'll just untap the forest. And then we can go Wooded Foothills. We'll crack that just to draw a card with the Dread Presence again. And we'll make a basic mountain this time. We want a couple of basics in play for some of our dual lands that care about basics. Again, going to do the 1 life and draw. Okay, and there's Glacial Chasm, so yeah, really giving our opponent a hard time here. I'll keep hold of the Glacial Chasm, I'll probably discard it. Let's just go for... yeah, we'll go for the Lotus Cobra here. Would have gone for that sooner, but I'm not worried about making a bunch of mana and playing my hand, so we'll just leave it like that and pass and try to set up the Thespian Stage combo. With the Elspeth enchantment, returning the Narset, Parter of the Veils, so they can search for some kind of an answer in the top 4 cards, I think it is, but only getting to a Preordain. I mean, that'll help them search even more, I suppose. So they play it out, go for Scry 2 and draw with the Preordain. And they got themselves into a fetch land, still 5 cards in hand. And Trial of Ambition, when it enters the battlefield, target opponent sacks a creature. And when a cartouche enters under your control, return it to its owner's hand. We'll just sacrifice the Rexage here. And it seems as though they're tapping out. That is a Palace Jailer, that will get them the Monarchy. They'll be able to get rid of a creature, I think it is. Exile a target creature an opponent controls, okay. and it is our Dread Presence that they're getting rid of. So, yeah, we'll wait until the end of the turn still. I think they've made a land, so they can't go for a Plains into Swords to Plowshares. But just in case, they might have a Lotus Petal or something. We'll go through to the end of the turn still. Maybe they don't know about the Merit Lage combo. They draw a card before that. We'll make a copy of the Dark Depths. And then it says, which one do you want to keep? To the legendary rule, we want to keep the one with no counters on it, which is Thespian Stage. And then the game sees that it has no counters left on it and turns it into the Merit Lage, which for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure you all do, it's a 2020 legendary black avatar with flying and indestructible, so they would need bounce or an exile spell for that. But clearly they don't have it because they decided to scoop there, which is fair enough. Did very well there, considering our starting hand. We managed to hold off Lord Windgrace for quite a while. Oftentimes in games of EDH you don't necessarily want to just dump your commander into play straight away, and we proved that here. Yeah, so that was a pretty good one for us. We'll go over to the deck list now and I'll try and show you some of the changes that I've made. Alright, so no particularly vast changes. The main one really are the two cards that we've taken out here. Had Dryad Arbor in the deck so that we could fetch it up on turn 1 as a ramp spell with Green Sun Zenith, and then Green Sun Zenith is just good on its own, as we can see all these really good green creatures. As the format's gotten faster, every single land drop matters, and sometimes you get into Dryad Arbor and you just have to play it with Summoning Sickness, and it's effectively a tap land. I really don't like tap lands unless they do something that's very good. So I've taken to not running Dryad Arbor and Green Sun Zenith together anymore. I'll run Green Sun Zenith still, but if I'm going to run Green Sun Zenith, then I'm likely running Finale of Devastation instead. So in its place, I've made some more changes. We saw Reshape the Earth for a little bit there, but didn't actually get to play it because it's obviously a late game card at 9 mana. This allows us to go for any of our 10 lands that we want and puts them into play, so we can go for things like Field of the Dead. I mean, your typical lands matter stuff really. We saw the Dark Depths combo. Gaia's Cradle with Field of the Dead is always a good one. If we're absolutely desperate, then Glacial Chasm will keep us from taking any life. Maze of Ith keeps things from attacking us, so yeah, there's a million and one things we could go for. Valakut as well. The Urborg becomes more and more relevant. The thing I always say with Urborg is, obviously, everyone knows it goes well with Cabal Coffers. It keeps us from having to put too much life into Ancient Tomb because we can tap it for black instead. But we go a step further with it in this deck because, like we saw in the previous game, we've got cards like Prismatic Omen and, where is it, Dryad of the Elysian Grove to make all of our lands every basic land type. So if they're all swamps, then Cabal Coffers cares about it, as does Dread Presence. We can draw a lot of cards or drain out our opponent for, what will it be? If we get 10 lands with the Dread Presence in play and something like the Prismatic Omen in play, then that will be 20 life that we're draining our opponent for. Same is true with the Valakut. That'll be a Lightning Bolt per land that comes in, so that'll be 30 damage to our opponent. So things like that I decided to include in the deck. They were in here already for the Valakut, but I've decided to do some swamp shenanigans as well with Dread Presence, and it worked to great effect in that last game, so very much happy with that. Not sure if I've shown you all Green Warden, Ancient Green Warden yet, but that is from the previous Zendikar set, so that is a fairly new one. Allows us to play cards from the graveyard, or play lands specifically from the graveyard, so we've got that, Crucible, and our commander, of course. We saw the Ramunap during the last game, so plenty of means of recycling fetches. And that is just more landfall triggers, of course, which does all your typical lands matter stuff. I think that is pretty much it for the changes. If there's any other changes that you think I should make, then be sure to let me know. I'm not entirely sure about Omnath Locus of Rage. To be honest, that's really in here because it's a lands matter card that fits in a red-green deck, which this obviously is in Jund. But a lot of the times it ends up as a dead card if we draw into it too early, so yeah, if there's anything that you think I should add, anything that would go well with what I've already got here, then be free to make some suggestions in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed this return to Lord Windgrace. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.